Is it actually true? Is Ghislaine Maxwell innocent? Is she a citizen of the ocean? Could she have gotten away with this if she never got caught by the FBI? How could she have got caught by the FBI after the measures she took? There's a lot of interesting things here, and I'm going to take a little different take on this scenario. But first, I do need to preference. I in no way, shape, or form condone or am okay with any of the things these garbage people did. Both Epstein, Maxwell, and all of the co-conspirators, and I hope they all get what's coming to them. But what I want to talk about is the privacy aspect, because I've had a lot of people talk to me about the privacy technology and the brilliant ghosting that Maxwell did, and how did she slip up and how did she get caught? Could she have actually been innocent? The answer is yes. Now, does that mean she was innocent of the crimes? No. It means she could have got away with the crimes, and I'm going to talk to you about exactly how that would work. So, keep in mind, as I go through this, I hope all of these people get what's coming to them. But I want to talk about the privacy aspect and how she was this close to getting away with it. And if it wasn't for her greed, she actually would have got away with it. Now, I'm happy she didn't get away with it, and I hope none of these other big-name individuals get away with it, but I guess the trial will unfold, and we'll see what happens. But from the privacy technology, ghosting, and anonymity standpoint, which at Privacy X is our specialty, how did she mess this up? Well, we're going to break that down today in Operation Catch Me If You Can. All right, so if you've been following this, after Epstein died, who was a billionaire, I'm not going to go too deep in Epstein, but he wasn't actually a billionaire in the traditional sense. There's a group of about 21 to 35 super rich and powerful billionaires that all got together, put money in a kitty, and made Epstein a billionaire to be their frontman for a lot of different activities, some of which are highly disturbing, highly disgusting, and highly illegal. On a multitude of different levels, he ended up dying. His right-hand person, his shadow person, his confidant, his Pepper Potts to Tony Stark was Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, we got a little problem here because turns out she's a horrible individual, but she ghosted and the FBI actually couldn't even find her. And we're going to break down what she did, how she got away with it, and how her greed got her caught. So when this all went down and Epstein died, Maxwell pretty much knew she needed to get out of Dodge. And by get out of Dodge, Bedford, New Hampshire. Now, she bought a sprawling 156-acre mansion, beautiful property, beautiful house for just over $1 million cash money. Now, you might be thinking, well, the FBI could track that. Oh, no. The exact same thing I do for my clients, and I want to be very clear. I was no way associated with any of this crap. I was never contacted. I was never anything. I do work with a lot of celebrities, and I do work with a lot of powerful people at Privacy X, but nobody from this situation contacted me or my team. There are other people who do what we do, and the first thing they did was smart. They bought the property for cash in a anonymous LLC that not even the FBI could untangle, which is the exact same procedure that people like me and other people do for our clients to make you a ghost. Difference is we don't hide pedophiles. Now, that was all great, and the FBI could not find her. And if she decided to move into that property and go complete ghost and never leave that property, she would have pretty much got away with it forever. Now, there's a few things people bring up. First of all, could they track her to the property? No, because the way the LLC was set up. Now, I've went in depth in this channel on exactly how to do that. Also, we do it for our clients over at Privacy X Projects. You guys can check that out. I'm not going to go in depth on that here, but she did a brilliant job setting that up. Now, there was another individual involved, but it was an all-cash deal, and it was a black site, basically. It was a complete ghost house, which you can do in a lot of ways. People do this all the time with a lot less money than she had, but she had access to extreme capital because of her situation. So $1 million really wasn't that much, and she was able to buy this beautiful estate. So people say, well, what about the internet? Well, the FBI is good, but they can only do so much. This isn't a Hollywood movie where we've got Skynet and you say, I want this person and facial recognition and all the satellites change orbit and they zero. No, dude. And Denzel Washington pops out of a car. The reality is they were tracking her and they were hot on her trail and they had a general idea, but they couldn't find her because that stuff doesn't exist. They needed her to actually do something. So the best way they can try to find somebody is through their internet activity. Well, she was really smart and did what a lot of privacy advocates like myself and some of the other privacy advocates do, using Whonex and Linux flavors of a virtual machine, and then utilizing resources like VPNs and Tor and encrypted nodes to be able to anonymously surf the net. Now, she used aliases and things like that, but they were never able to actually capture her traffic because she was bouncing her traffic sources all around the world. And she was never logging on from the same IP address. Everything was in static rotation. So they just weren't able to lock her down. Also, they didn't exactly, it wasn't like she was putting "here I am" on there, right? So they have to try to use known emails, known, social accounts, which you'd have to be an idiot to use that stuff. In fact, the NSA and the CIA had a leaked, a document, a memo that came out on WikiLeaks saying that they get like 2/3 of their information from social media because people put their own information out there. And so this is where they kind of hit walls. Well, she utilized the internet anonymously pretty flawlessly, frankly. I mean, she used the dark web. She used a lot of these things where the FBI was just never able to track her down. So ultimately what happened, if she could use the internet to buy whatever she wanted, she could be on this estate, she could afford to hire people to get her supplies and drop off the supplies. I mean, basically she could live like an 80-year-old an 80-year-old widow on this sprawling estate and have people deliver her stuff, and no one would really ever be the wiser. Where she slipped up was the same place that most people slipped up, and that is right, you guessed it, phones. Idiots and their cell phones. Now, did she use a burner phone like this one? No, of course not. She had to have the latest and greatest smartphone. Now, was it a Linux smartphone like this one? No, of course not. You already know. Now, was it on a prepaid? No, of course not. She had to get a carrier. Now, she put the phone in an alias, right, Cody? Yeah, she did. You know what the alias was? G-Max. No, I'm not kidding. After all that hard work, and this is why everyone says one false move could undo all your hard work. And these government agencies have manpower and patience when they need to, and all they need is one little thread. If they could just find one little thread, they can pull it apart. And these guys are experts at that. And to put your phone in G-Max is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I couldn't believe it. And then what they did is they used a stinger, one of these, IMSI, right? So what they're able to do is track your phone. Now, you already know they can track, they can triangulate and GPS tracking. Why she would use a phone provider is beyond me. Why she would put it in G-Max is beyond me. What happens is we've got a situation where these phone companies basically log all of your data at all times, and then they build what's called data mapping. Now, the problem with this, and the founding fathers said, better to let 100 guilty people go than to imprison one innocent person. And I tend to agree, even though I'm hoping these people all don't get let go on their heinous crimes. But that's for the trial, and I'm not talking about that on this channel or on this video. I'm talking about the situation, but we've completely flipped it to where you're guilty till proven innocent. Now, again, I'm not talking about these people, but keep in mind the same technology is regularly being used against you. And so the problem with these phones, and the reason it was so easy, because she was under the false pretense that this information is private, and it's not. Everyone's phone information is scanned and cataloged and uploaded, and geo maps are put together everywhere you go. And if you ever go the wrong place at the wrong time and it's out of character, you're guilty until proven innocent. And this technology is being used against you. And she was so foolish that she utilized this phone. And what was the common denominator? This sprawling estate. So the FBI literally just rolled up, ring the bell. The housekeeper answered, let him in. Maxwell fled to one of the bedrooms, came out on her own will, and just said, I want a lawyer. She was so arrogant that she thought she was going to be out by lunch. Well, a year and a half later, she's been in solitary confinement and prison, and her trial just started, and we'll see how that plays out. But what I'm telling you is it wasn't that they were tracking her phone, it's that they track all phones. And this is a problem, and this is why ghosting is so important for the average person. Now, I'm glad she messed up, and I want to keep preferencing, but I've been getting asked by so many people if they were able to catch her, why and how. It looked like she did a lot of really smart stuff. She did, but then she got greedy and she got lazy with the old smartphone. The smartphone is a modern day tracking device. Basically, you all are out on parole and you have an ankle bracelet, but instead of an ankle bracelet, you've got a smartphone. Now, if you don't carry your smartphone everywhere you go in a complete blackout bag that blacks out the phone, so your phone is, and I tell you, all signals turned off, both Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, everything's turned off. Then it's turned on to airplane mode. Then it's turned off. Then it's put in a frequency bag. Then they can't track it, and they can't even piece it together when you turn it back on because there's nothing to piece together. But you'll turn it off here. You'll turn it on here. They won't know exactly where you went, but they'll know here and here, right? So they can still map it together. So you really got to be careful with smartphones. You really got to be careful with phones in general because they are tracked and used against you 24/7, 365. Now, what I wanted to talk about more than Maxwell was the notion of phones. And this is the problem with phones. This is why all of you should have more burner-style phones. I change the number on this and the SIM card in this on a very regular basis. And I have several burner-style phones everywhere I go. I have a 4 to 6 phone system where I've got all these different phones. There's my main smartphone in here, all these different phones at regular for different things. So you compartmentalize. One of the keys to privacy is compartmentalization. Now you might be saying, Cody, are you saying I need to run out and buy half a dozen phones? Well, not necessarily, but having one phone is not really a good idea. And having it with you all the time is not necessarily a good idea. So getting in the habit of utilizing it when you need to utilize it and unplugging on a regular basis, unplug, shut it down. And don't just shut it down because all phones, even burner phones, all a burner phone is, all this phone is a phone that's not technically in my name. It's a phone that can't be traced to me unless you find it in my hand. That's all a burner phone is. Even junk low-level phones have gotten really good in the last 5 years. And so you need to understand that the key to this is it not being in your name, it not being with you, and it not geo-mapping everywhere you go, which allows you to utilize these at different places. So, for me, having different phones for different things is a priority. Not having them in my name is a priority. It's not that hard to do, and I teach my clients how to do it, and you be a complete ghost. But you also need to understand that there is some inconveniences, but in this guilty until proven innocent society, you need to understand that. Also, there was a lot of peaceful protesters and rioters last year, and there were some peaceful protesters that went to jail because they were wrong place, wrong time. And there were some rioters that went to jail, and they probably should have. A lot of them created a lot of damage, but they were tracked by their phone, and they were baffled that the FBI tracked them down. And there was a lot of them because whenever there's riots, you need to understand that the perimeter of every riot that's ever happened in the United States in the last 50 to 70 years has been covered in federal agents. Now, they don't come in and stop and interfere because they don't care about personal property. And to be brutally honest with you, they barely care about American lives. What they're doing is they're recording all the data, all the info. That's why after those riots and those protests, people were getting arrested for like 6 to 8 months. And there's still technically people getting arrested for some of that stuff because they piece together the data. And then you go to work and one day 6 federal agents show up at your work and cart you out for something you did 6 months ago. Maybe you did it, maybe you didn't, but they got your phone information. They got you placed at the scene. You didn't even think that was possible. Not only do they have you placed at the scene, through triangulation and GPS coordination, look at me with my big words. What they're able to do is retrace all your steps within a very small diameter, depending upon how dense the towers are in your city. In some places, within a few feet. Now, some people say within a few inches. That's not true. That's never been proven, and that's actually not true. But within about 10 feet, which is scary, and you're bringing this tracking device with you everywhere. Don't do it. Now, again, am I happy they caught Maxwell and looters? Sure. But keep in mind, there's a lot of people who get tangled up in these things. Wrong place, wrong time. And in the guilty until proven innocent society, while I'm happy when the guilty, like those rioters and like Maxwell, get caught, you really need to start understanding that in this society, it's guilty first, it's prosecute first, it's nobody cares. And if you can't afford to defend yourself, if you don't got, $20,000, $50,000, $300,000 in the bank to fork over to lawyers, you're going to prison. And there's a lot of people go to prison every year for things they didn't commit. And it's unfortunate. And this is just what happens. And now I keep seeing people get let out of prison for crimes they didn't commit and new DNA evidence. And do you realize that in most states have laws now where you can't even sue? There was a guy the other day, it was really sad. There was a guy the other day in Missouri. He got like 60 years for a crime he didn't commit, served like 50, and they gave him like 38 grand because that's all the insurance would allow. They should give him like 38 million. They ruined his life. They took almost all of his time, but they don't care, right? And there's, oops, sorry, here's a couple of bucks. And you see this stuff all the time. Now, the reason I really, really stress these things is because we live in a society where if you try to save someone's life, they could turn around and sue you. Like if you see someone why do you think whenever something bad happens, people like frantically walk the other way? Because if you try to help someone, you could get sued. There's people who've gotten arrested and gone to jail for trying to help someone. Because what if the person died and did you have anything to do with it? Well, they were choking to death over there and I tried to give them the Heimlich. Yeah, but they died. Now it's, it's on you. You had, 3 to 5 years because you were, what? Right? You see this stuff happens all the time. Oh, murder happened over there and we got you over there and we've been tracking everything you do for the last 3 years and you typically don't go over there and you were over there tonight and a murder happened, so prove to me you didn't kill him. Well, I didn't kill him. I was dropping. It doesn't matter. Guilty. So this is the society we're living in. So I get asked this question a lot and I wanted to kind of tie these two things together because I wanted to talk about the worst of it and the best of it. Again, and the best of it is like the Maxwell and the rioters. The worst of it is the people that are in the wrong place, wrong time. And I want you guys to totally understand you need to start protecting yourself and that you literally pay thousands of dollars and a monthly fee of $50 or $100 typically on a device that all it does is spy on you. Do you realize that? That's all it does, 24/7, 365. It knows more about you than every person you've ever met in your life. And then some. Like it is at a whole nother level. And you pay for this device. If the government mandated a device that had 1/10 of its amount of information as your smartphone, and they gave it to you, they mandated it, people would lose it. And they should. But instead of government mandating it, they said, you know what, we're going to make you pay trillions of dollars. I mean, Apple's a multi-trillion-dollar company. Samsung is incredibly rich. Google is a trillion-dollar company. So you pay for your own tracking. You pay for your own digital imprisonment. So you need to take this stuff seriously. I wanted to kind of come at this with a different angle. I'm hoping that Maxwell and all the co-conspirators in that trial get what is coming to them. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what kind of phone you use. Do you use burner phones, smartphones? Do you use pointless phones like iPhones and Google Pixels and Samsung Galaxies that all they do is stalk you, or do you use phones that are not in your name? I recommend at bare minimum use something like Graphene OS. At bare minimum, make sure that if you are using a carrier and provider, you only use it like maybe at your house, have like a phone you use at your house, a phone you use at your office. And when you travel with the phone, I recommend the phone be completely and utterly locked down. I did a tutorial on how to lock it down. Remember, you have to do all the steps I said. If you miss one of the steps, I did a tutorial video on how I do this. You can watch that video here on how to completely lock down a phone where it cannot be traced under no circumstances. But if you miss even one of those steps, it will be traced at all times. So you need to understand that. Anyway, guys, appreciate you checking out this video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like. Putting out new videos here all the time on Privacy X. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.